Alright, time for another draftphysics.com video presentation. A lot of videos today. Yes, a lot of videos to respond to, except none of them are really on the subject, and of course none of them are responses, actual counter arguments. So again, I will do a live stream if somebody can actually make a video where they actually counter something I say in these videos, and they just won't do it. So I guess we'll go over this Ian video first, and then I'll talk some about the free momentum experiment and paradoxes created and such. So, because I just don't want to make another video, frankly. And then we'll play that, whatever he does, this tosspot Gary DraftScience, whatever that means, tosspot. These little code words of theirs. Alright, so in this experiment, I simply pointed out, for years I've been talking about 10-ton trains versus 5-ton trains, okay? And the fact that, you give this a 10 velocity and you give this a 5 velocity, and their physics, and this was inspired by Physics Girl, who made a video saying, yes, the momentum is conserved, but we lost half the energy. I mean, words that just can't make much sense to some people. I mean, some people should be able to say, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, how can you lose half the energy and have the same momentum? That doesn't make any sense. So that's the basic experiment. My contention is, no, they have the same energy. If you crash them into a proper spring, you'll find that they'll compress the spring the same amount because they have the same pressure or force. They weigh the same based on their momentum. Now, if you turn that experiment into gravity, obviously it is a little bit different, okay? And what you're going to be doing is dropping the 5 mass to acquire twice the velocity, okay? You're going to be dropping the 5 mass from 4 times the height that you're going to drop the 10. Should make the 10 bigger so you get it. Okay, so you're only going to drop the 10 from 1 unit of distance. You're going to drop the 5 from 4 units of distance, and that will double your velocity. But the catch is, this is a constant force, a constant rain. There's no constant rain going this way here. There's no constant force pushing the masses, giving them matter weight. So in this case, they don't have any matter weight in this direction. Their matter doesn't weigh anything automatically. Only their velocity gives their mass weight. Their velocity gives their mass weight. There's no gravitational force giving the weights constant weight. They don't have any constant weight. They only have the weight of their velocity. So in this case, obviously the 10 mass is going to have a constant weight of 10, and the 5 mass is only going to have a constant weight of 5. So you have to understand that when they compress the spring, okay, you have to minus 5 from here, and you have to minus 10 from here, to see that they're really the same compression, the same extra acceleration, ma. The amount of ma is the falling. The amount of gm is the regular weight. You have to subtract the gm to do the ma. There's just ma here. There's just mass and velocity here. If you want to do mass and velocity here, you have to subtract the gm. My initials. Anyway, okay. So that's the first. So that's what I'm going to get to when I play his video. So I predicted this is how you have to do the experiment when you're dropping things. This is how you do the experiment when you're not dropping them. So they are different experiments because there is a difference. Gravity's not playing a role here. Gravity is playing a role here. Different experiments, different conditions. That's science. Yeah, okay. All right, so now I'll get to the argument against the dispar extra velocity thing. Well, it's just extra velocity. It isn't 4 times or 8 times or squared velocity. The limit is 2, actually. Well, anyway. Okay, so what I'll demonstrate here is a paradox that definitely proves that this theory can't be complete. Okay, this theory that when you bang things into each other, okay, that somehow when you go from little things to big things, that somehow you can create more motion in the universe. That is, you can send this in with 100 this can leave with 133 in this direction, and this can reflect with 33 in this direction. Or in the worst case scenario, right, the most extreme case, is to have this unmovable. That is, it won't roll at all, but it collects the force nonetheless. So the brick wall is the example. Their theory says, I put a spring here, I make sure it's elastic anyway, rubber ball. I put it in with 100, I get 100 back, and I put 200 into here. So the best I can do is double the energy. I can't make it more than that. The best I can do is 200. In this case it's 1/3 because I only have a mass that's twice as much. If the mass was 3/4, then I could get probably 2/3, and so on, until I get to an immovable or a very heavy object. Once I get to a certain weight, I can't go over the 2 number. It'll just be 2x. Never squared functions, never bullet to gun ratio. So this really has nothing to do with the kinetic energy subject in a way, because clearly it's limited to just this 2x. I can only 2x increase the total motion in the universe, if that's even possible. Like I said, it is debatable. But anyway, so that's what we're really talking about. I think they would agree that in the spring case, 2x goes in. If I take away the spring and I make the object sticky, okay, so this is sticky now. So here it's completely unsticky. Here it's sticky. That is, the object will stick to it. Okay, so I send it in with 100, and all I do is make the collective object move away with 100. So I believe they will completely concur that that's what happens. If the two things collide and they stick, I conserve the momentum. I get exactly the same motion, momentum motion, in one direction, and that's all that happens. There's only 100 momentums going forward. And if it doesn't stick and it reflects, then there's 200 going forward. So by including something elastic, I change it from 100 to 200. So that's the simple argument. If it sticks, combines with the object, I only get 100 momentums in the universe. If it doesn't stick, I get 200. I think they agree that's what they're contending. So that's their contention, that that's a true fact, that absolutely does happen. All right, so let's take that fact and see what the consequences would be. If, for example, I did it to a spaceship. So this is only taking a couple of minutes, right? I mean, this video is only 7 minutes long, and I've made 2 arguments in it already. So they certainly could play the arguments I've made, and they could demonstrate where I said something wrong. I said something completely incorrect. So they could do that, but they won't. So again, here's our spaceship. All right, and so instead of having an internal event, we're going to have the external event. All right, so we're not going to get our energy from explosion inside the ship and just keep everything inside the ship. We're just going to let the outside universe play around with the spaceship. And on this side of the ship, we're going to put springs, not sticky. So this side reflects anything that hits it. It reflects it. And this side is exactly the opposite. This side is, let's see how to draw a sticky, right? I don't know. Squiggly line. So this side is sticky. Okay, so this is glue and this is springs. By their theory, anything that hits this way, okay, this is a much more massive object, so anything smaller than a golf ball, or whatever you want to say, anything smaller than a hippopotamus, frankly, is going to bounce off. And I'm going to get 2x the momentum hitting this surface, putting pressure on the spaceship. So it's 2x. This side, everything that hits, golf ball, hippopotamus, doesn't matter what I throw, I only get 1x. So obviously you could use this differential to move the spaceship. You don't need to put fire out of here, right? This is a free engine you could create. You just let the sunlight or anything, you know, the forces are a little different, right? The rules could be different for photons, because we know this doesn't work for photons, right? We know we can't, the photometer or whatever it's called, you know, the little spinning thing where you make one side dark and one side bright, and then it spins. And they found that it doesn't work in a vacuum. So a complete vacuum, it doesn't spin. So you need atoms in the way to create pressure on the surfaces. So the fact is the photons don't hit the sticky side and then reflect off the bright side with 2x. Okay, no 2x happens. You don't get more energy on the shiny side. Doesn't happen. The shiny side doesn't produce this effect. You need atoms in the way. Okay, and then it works. And that is the funny part, right? Is that the shiny side is the side that spins. The side that's absorbing the photons is the dead side. All right. So in that sense, it does work, but it doesn't work in a vacuum. So again, just recognize that there's some catch. There's a reason there's a catch. Okay, that's what I meant by incomplete. Your theory is incomplete because clearly it doesn't work. But let's just say that all the energy that was going to hit the ship, I first converted. So I put a converter outside the ship. Okay, and the converter will basically turn any photonic matter, any cosmic rays, any kind of pressure created into movement of big objects like electrons or maybe even full atoms. So it'd be full atoms hitting the springs, full atoms hitting the glue. And so I can't avoid absorbing the momentum. Well, obviously, the two sides of the universe are presumably creating the same energy. And so you could use this as a propulsion system because you're going to get twice the energy on one side, twice the momentum moving you, pushing you, twice the force as you have on the other side. So obviously I would call this a paradox, okay? And it can't really be true. There's got to be more to the story. There's got to be more of a reason why there's this differential because this frankly won't work. It won't work in a vacuum. It won't be able to collect the energy. Now, you know, theoretically, yes, if we turn it into golf balls, could we make it happen? I'd still say no, but yeah, we haven't done the actual experiment. But the fact is we can intuit that if this phenomenon was real, NASA would be using it. Okay, so that's another subject, but I wanted to just get it out there that I might be agreeable to some notion that this 2x thing exists, you know, that there is some phenomenon that makes atoms move more when you're hitting small things into big things, but it's only 2x at maximum. It'll never be, it's not a squared function. You can't create gun recoils and bullets with it. That's not possible. So it really doesn't have anything to do with the kinetic energy theory. It just has to do with a more complete understanding of what the nature of momentum is in more complex atoms. That atoms have a more complex reaction to the momentum that hits them. Maybe that's possible. But I am saying it seems kind of unlikely just because I don't think it can survive this paradox. That this doesn't work and this doesn't work. All right, now on to the one of the. I mean, these people. I mean, I could say despicable, but it just doesn't. It doesn't do it. I mean, these are just disgusting human beings. They're disgusting monsters, creatures. They just can't do anything honorable ever.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I thought it would happen. I've just watched your today's.
So will we see him play today's video? The video where I explain the difference between horizontal tests and vertical tests. Will he play that video and explain why anything I said in that video is incorrect?
Video. Thank goodness I didn't bother doing that experiment.
Oh, just amazing, right? His big challenge, blah, blah, blah. Thank goodness I didn't bother doing the experiment. So he already knows that I'm right, I guess, right? I mean, why is he giving up? That doesn't make any sense. Just because I made a video explaining what I think the outcomes will be, and I made a prediction, now all of a sudden he knows it's not worth doing? How strange.
First, I thought what would happen has happened. You've laid the ground for the experiment to fail.
Oh, there. See, what is that? I made a prediction. You asked for a prediction. I gave you the prediction. Yeah, a year ago, I didn't realize this thing about weights. Okay, that, you know, I put something on a scale, it weighs. I can't stop that from happening. So even when it's falling, it still has this. This weight is already still there. Even when it's falling and it's going to hit the scale, I still have to understand, oh, it already has this weight too. Because that's the constant force weight. And all I'm saying is, oh, okay, if we want to test what the motion was, if we just want the MA part, you just have to subtract the MG part. Is that really saying so much? Is that so blah, blah, blah? See, because again, he wants to go with a slight difference. And the fact is, the difference isn't going to be huge. It's just minusing 10 versus minusing 5, whatever the weight of the object is. And you're just going to measure the differences. But I mean, obviously, something that weighs twice as much, it's not going to be an insignificant amount. But let's understand, he already said that in his video, right? He already predicted that it's not going to be the kinetic energy number. You know, he just said any variation means I'm wrong. Well, I explained why, no, some variation is expected, and if you're smart, you'll realize, yeah, it's for good reason. It's perfectly sensible. The experiment is, in fact, different when you're dropping objects than when you're give them velocity horizontally. It's a different experiment. Not a huge difference, but it is different. And again, you have to account for all the variables. That's science. And you wish to account for none of them. Maybe I'll just speed this up.
I hadn't done it. I'm quite confident that it would show a difference.
Okay, you really believe he hasn't done it? Do you really believe that? I mean, he gave up on doing the experiment merely because I answered his direct challenge to predict. And because I directly answered his question and made my prediction, so did a bunch of other people, now he's copping out? And could somebody imagine that the only reason he's copping out is because he knows my prediction was dead on? Perfectly correct. And how does he know that? Well, he knows that because he did do the experiment, frankly. I mean, would he have this whole apparatus set up if he didn't already do the experiment? I mean, how gullible does he think you people really... You're really so fucking stupid that you imagine that he's going to show us the experiment without doing the experiment on the pretense that, oh no, I didn't set this all up already. I mean, come on.
I wanted to see what you would come up with. And you have, haven't you? You have.
So let's just understand. He thinks it's some sort of plausible that I'm evading or I'm cheating somehow because I explained something so obvious that, yes, even when you drop things, the things still have their original weight. They're still going to weigh something when they hit the scale, even if they're not moving. And you just have to subtract that weight. Is that really so hard for you people to understand? I mean, you're going to call that a gimmick or evasion or an excuse? That's how low you'll go, Piro. Yeah, you, Piro. That's how low you'll go.
Well, I'm not going to bother doing it. I'm really not. Because you don't want.
So amazing, right? Just fucking amazing. He makes this video challenge. Here's a challenge. I'm going to prove you wrong for good this time, you motherfucker. All this bullshit. And here he weasels out. Because I answered directly his question. I illustrated it. I showed it. I showed exactly what it's going to do. And now he won't do the experiment because I showed exactly what it's going to do.
To see the truth. You don't want to have to admit you're wrong.
Oh, brother.
Where's your humility?
Where are your nuts, you despicable coward? You despicable human being. You make this antics. You do this video with this antics. Challenge, challenge, challenge. Okay, come on. Do you have the guts? Blah, 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 blah. And then he runs away. He runs the fuck away.
Where is your humbleness?
Oh, disgusting.
You haven't got any.
You haven't got any. Or balls.
I noticed that
or integrity.
in today's, what's today's date? 30th of June. In today's video, you're changing your tune a little bit, Gary, I noticed.
Yeah, that's right. We've all learned something. I didn't know this whole angular momentum thing. I didn't know all the details of angular momentum a year ago. I didn't know all of this stuff. You have to think about it. You have to draw the pictures, make it, figure it out whether it can work. You have to do all this little arrow exchange shit. 3 years ago, I didn't know that these little photo wheel things didn't work in a in a pure vacuum. You put it in a pure vacuum, it doesn't work. I didn't know that, well, let's say 4 years ago. There's lots of things that change. And this change is perfectly reasonable and perfectly logical. I've never done the experiment, but let's understand. The challenge was 10-ton train versus 5-ton train. That's where I was making the argument from, that twice the velocity, okay, in a half mass is the same thing as half the velocity in a full mass. And that was the argument. And we've tilted the experiment now, and we're saying, yes, we have the right velocity numbers, and oh yeah, but there's a little catch. The gravity is a constant force. You don't have a constant wind in the train example. I didn't say there was a constant wind of 50 miles an hour, pushing the trains. And one train has a big sail, a 10-ton, a 10 sail, and the other one only has a 5 sail. We didn't have those conditions. I mean, it's just retarded that he's evading the subject and claiming that there's some catch to what I explained. There's no catch. There's no lie. There's no deception. It's the facts. And just see how much respect he has for those facts. To sit there and just spit on them. He's spitting on the fact that it just happens to be true that dropping them vertically is a different experiment than pushing them horizontally. They're two different experiments in different physical conditions.
You're now expressing some doubt about mass times velocity.
No doubt.
Being correct. Totally correct. You said something like it's more likely to be more correct.
Yeah, I'm trying to give the benefit of the doubt. Let's say you've done all these experiments and you're saying, okay, it's doing this 2/3 thing. I'm saying, okay, let's take that argument. And I said it works internally. I said that point. I said, yeah, it does work internally. It makes sense that you have twice the force on one side because you're going to have twice the force hitting the other side. The launching velocity is in a direction. You have, this is the launch, right? The launch is an explosion. You get an arrow going that way. That hits the side over here. You have an arrow going this way, okay? And that's going to bounce. Well, if it bounces, then this side's going to get hit with 2 arrows. And that side only got hit with 1 arrow. So it would have to turn. So there really has to be somehow you have 2 arrows going that way. When you don't. So I said, yes, it works internally. But let's test it externally. It fails again. So I'm just being fair to the argument. But clearly, it's only twice the energy, right? So even if the momentum number is a lie and the fundamental energy is always twice. So let's just say something has available energy. The available energy would be twice. And so if you hit something bigger, you can create more momentum. But if you hit something smaller, momentum is conserved. So the energy number can boost your momentum number. I'm conceding that, okay, maybe that's possible. But it has nothing to do with squaring anything.
Then KE, kinetic energy, 1/2 mv squared.
So this is,
mv is more likely to be more...
So let's just understand, he's completely changing the subject. So now he's on to Spar's video. He's showing this weight scale. We were talking about the simple problem of figuring out whether twice the velocity is going to... What moves the scale? Does the scale move by momentum or does it move by kinetic energy, whatever the fuck that is?
Correct. Something along those lines. Very... a bit ambiguous. In fact, I think you even said it's definitely not 1/2 mv squared, but it might be mv... I don't know, times 2 or something. Something.
Yes, in my previous videos I said exactly that before. I brought up the 2 times thing many times before where it seems quite curious, especially in these inverse ratio experiments, that the joule number is double the Newton pounds number, the foot-pound number. So the foot-pound number for momentum would be half of what their calculated joule number would be. And that always seemed curious to me, how they came up with a joule number that happens to be twice as much as the Newton number. So this isn't new. I played Professor Lewin's video years ago where he posed this, he didn't answer the question, by the way, this curiosity that I have twice the momentum in the thing I hit, and I'm only getting one momentum back. And, that seems implausible, but he left it open. Now, his argument, I think, is that the whole Earth moved, which I'm going to argue didn't happen either.
Like that. What's happened for you to start changing your tune a bit?
So, whatever.
Now, let's remember, I can see how this will go on. And in future, as more and more evidence comes forward...
Well, okay, look, I guess what I'll say is I just won't watch any more of your videos, okay? I just won't do it. Because this is so dishonest. I mean, you said you're going to prove me wrong, and you don't have the guts to even do the experiment now because I did exactly what you requested. I gave you my explicit prediction, and now you're not going to make the experiment because I gave you my explicit prediction. I mean, it's just such nonsense to leave this an open question. Why don't you prove your fucking point? Prove it's twice the energy. Let's see the spring compress twice as much. If it's twice the energy, show me it's twice the energy.
You will say, well, I always said it was not quite. No, you said MV is correct, and anybody... It's a kinetic...
And I'm still saying it's correct. I played Julius Sumner just a few days ago, where he added the MAs, and I said, well, this is kind of bullshit. I mean, making a giant formula out of this. Okay, but he was just illustrating the point that part of what you're doing to something is what gravity does, and then there's other impacts and other things that can also affect the experiment, and he called those MA. Now, I would have called them MV, but regardless, there are different components, and I just explained the difference. Again, I did it in the video you're responding to, and you're not responding to any of that argument. You're not explaining how anything in that argument was incorrect. So again, it's as simple as this simple drawing, okay, the horizontal trains going down tracks, and then the difference between dropping the trains onto springs, and that the two experiments are a little bit different. There was nothing I said that was inaccurate, and here you are playing this game. Instead of refuting me and pointing out how that doesn't matter, you're sitting here basically conceding the point that, yes, I'm absolutely correct, and the outcome would be exactly what I predicted.
Energy is a fable, and any idiot that believes in that idiocracy of KE must be a religious...
Yeah, you have to be an idiot to think something can conserve momentum and make sounds and bend metal and, open bird cages or whatever. Give a hippopotamus an anal probe, a brozo probe. How can it possibly do those things without using its momentum? I'm saying you have to be kind of illogical at minimum. You have to be kind of illogical to say, yes, I don't have to use my momentum to do work. That on its face does sound very suspicious. That sounds like a woo theory.
Kook. Leibniz is a religious kook because he come up with it. On and on.
No, not because he came up with it, because he was actually aggressively trying to propagandize for God. Okay? He accused Newton and Descartes of having sacrilegious theories of physics because they weren't obedient to God's magnificence. They weren't catering to religious dogma in their physics.
And on you repeat it. There's no getting out of it. It's recorded on all your videos.
What am I getting out of?
Changing your tune a bit now. Well, okay. It's more...
I didn't change any tune, so again, right? I realize something, okay, through these conversations, okay, talking about weight and pressure and talking about moving things faster and faster across the scale, and the fact that something that weighs 10 pounds doesn't weigh 10 pounds. If I move it fast enough across the scale, that's not what it weighs anymore. All those conversations, and again, the Julia Sumner video I just played 4 days ago is a huge clue that, oh yeah, this is it. If I want to do the MA thing, I have to subtract the MG thing, because there's no G here. There's no G pushing on the scale. There's no G giving things extra weight. There's no G giving things extra weight. Do I have to say it any simpler than that? There's no G giving things extra weight. You can't understand that argument? Asshole.
Likely to be more correct than KE, MV. Nah. That was the only one that was correct, and you're 100% sure, and you called
So here he
is
again. He's mixing the two subjects. This one's directly about KE. Okay, so let's stay on this one. All right, the magical free momentum thing is a different subject. So let's do one subject at a time. You're saying scales don't measure momentum. You're saying springs don't measure momentum. I'm claiming they do, and the easy way to test it is to plow the 10-ton train and the 5-ton train into the same spring and see if they weigh the same. See if the motion adds up to the same amount of pressure.
And an idiot for believing it. For believing otherwise.
For 2 years I've been asking people to explain how a lever works and to do these simple experiments where you test the 10-ton against the 5-ton. Now Toady did one of the experiments, okay? He took the 10-ton train theoretically and took the 5-ton train theoretically as a metaphor. Same exact ratios as the 10 and 5-ton trains, and crashed them right into each other. And what happened? The 5-ton train didn't move the collision. Every collision you'll ever see, the thing with the most energy is the thing that moves the collision. So if I'm going 100 miles an hour in a golf cart and I hit a car, I'm going to push the car with my extra energy. Didn't happen. The thing with twice the energy didn't move the collision. Pretty good evidence that it doesn't have twice the energy.
Things, me and others, you're not going to get away with it. But this bloody experiment.
Really, okay, this is it. I won't watch your videos anymore. I'm not trying to get away with anything. It's a real physics argument. You're just being a complete asshole. You make your challenge, I directly answer your challenge, and then you run away like a pussy. Disgusting behavior.
What really annoys me about you,
and again, we know we already did it, right? He has this bolt, he has the scale, we know he already set up the experiment. Are we going to pretend he didn't already do it? I mean, fuck.
It's like, why don't you show us how a spring works? Why don't you show us how a lever works? How many fucking times have I done it? I've got about 30 videos.
Never. That's how many times you've done it. Never. You've never come close to doing actually what I described, which is, you know, even the other day, the other video, okay, there was an argument about how we collect the energy, and I was saying, gee, yeah, flywheel. Just take a 2-mass flywheel, okay, the same density, okay, no hollow one versus solid one. 2 flywheels of 2-to-1 mass ratios, okay, put them up to the appropriate speeds, and then connect a generator and take away their energy and see if they generate the same wattage. I contend they'll generate exactly the same wattage. Okay, you contend that the faster one has twice as much energy it can produce. So go ahead and prove it.
Videos showing it. You asshole.
Yeah, well, you proved.
You keep saying, why don't you just show us how it works?
You proved your colours.
Me how the spring works?
Yeah, why don't you show us?
I fucking well have. I've drawn it.
Your video
explained it.
You're videotaping the scale. So again, does anyone really believe he set all of this up and he didn't do the experiment? He just happens to have this setup already hooked up and he was ready to do the experiment, but he stopped doing the experiment because he saw my video. Come on. Can't be that stupid.
Rubbish it. Have you got bad memory? There's something wrong with your mind, your head. And if you're going to start taking the piss out of the way I say things, shall I start doing that to you? Shall I put a wig on?
Go ahead. You know, if that'll make you feel like you're proud of yourself. I'm saying the English language is the English language, okay, frankly. And, you know, I think most people are capable of using the words semi-appropriately. I'm just saying so. I mean, if you're not going to bother doing that, I have to take a little bit of a laugh at it. What the hell is this toss pot? What the fuck is that? I have to go look up what a toss pot is? Fuck you.
Shall I? Shall I go down that route? We got a character called Wurzel Gummidge. He looks like you. He was a fucking scarecrow.
Whatever that means, right? I mean, so you know, again, go ahead and make these arguments all day long. You're saying you're more physically fit than me? I mean, realistically, I am 63 years old, and you're saying you're more physically fit. You'd rather have your body than my body, because I'm a scarecrow. This isn't like the healthy human being. No, this is somehow unhealthy, because I'm not a fat, lethargic, out-of-breath pig like yourself. I mean, is that really the argument you want to make? So that's, I mean, that theory of yours, okay, that you're healthier, you know, that you're a better specimen of human being is insanely lame. I mean, it's so stupid. I mean, only a fat retard could think so. Amazing. Just fucking amazing. So go ahead, yes, do that all day. Go ahead, call me Scarecrow Man, if that gets you off. Oh, fuck.
I don't want to go down that fucking route, so don't fucking tempt me, you prick.
Your whole
Why
video...
don't you just draw us a picture, show us how a spring works?
Yeah, is that too challenging? Is it too challenging? It's too challenging to draw a lever and explain how it works. You can't draw this spaceship thing I just did, right? I did a nice little spaceship drawing. You can't do that. You can't go anywhere near any of my arguments. Are these things fucked up or what? I think the camera has switched again on me. It does that. The one that's supposed to be over one place ends up being over in the other place. You know, the two cameras switch. Irritating.
The very reason I knew you would do this, the very reason I suggest...
So he knew I was going to do this, and he knew he wasn't going to do the experiment. So all the people that did their little predicting and all that stuff, well, you just wasted your time, because he knew ahead of time that he wasn't going to bother. Even though he set this up and bolted this thing in and did all this crap. I mean, just such weaselly bullshit.
I had to get an experiment that you would say would read the same reading on the scale. And I knew that you would say one mass, one speed is exactly the same as half mass, doubles.
Right, if you have them going like trains, like the metaphor, the original metaphor, okay? I mean, the Physics Girl video is essentially just a thought experiment. They don't actually roll trains, but the theory is the same, okay, that it works. Okay, you can do it on air tracks, and it works. It does come out that way. The momentum is conserved. You hit the 5-ton train into a standing 5-ton train, and you lose half your velocity, but you retain your full portion of momentum. Yes, that's how it works, going horizontally, where gravity isn't adding another force.
Speed. You would say it would read the same reading. And we know it doesn't, because kinetic energy predicts it reads more. And you're saying now more.
I'm saying lame is what I'm saying. Your prediction is that it's twice the energy. So why doesn't it compress the spring twice as much? And how is not compressing the spring twice as much consistent with Hooke's law?
Why isn't it doubly more?
Oh, it's such an evasion. I mean, this is just tedious. Alright, so we'll just speed it up. Get the hell out of here. This is such rubbish. This human being is just such a piece of shit.
Fucking prick. I've explained that about the spring. It measures energy.
Not very well, frankly. Not very linearly. Obviously, you're saying it's not linear. It doesn't measure energy linearly, okay? It's a completely different kind of funny curve, okay? It does all kinds of wacky bending and crookedness. So you won't show me any of that. What's the curve for how the spring reads energy?
It measures weight. Sorry, it measures weight and not energy. Hooke's law is
Okay. And again, weight, I'll say it over and over and over again. Weight is always momentum. That's exactly what I can duplicate. The scale compression of my mass in gravity. I can duplicate exactly the same pressure horizontally by applying a force. And that force will be exactly the same force that gravity creates that weight with. So it'll be exactly a 9.8 meter per second force that I apply to my mass to move the scale this way. It's exactly the same. All I have to do is apply a constant force. Or an instantaneous force. Like I say, it can be an instant force, and then you can read the 9.8 on the instant force.
With energy. It's in all the books. Hooke's law says if I've got £1 of weight, it'll read that £1. And if I put £2 of weight on it, it'll double the extension. It's 2. 3. It's linear. The energy is different.
It says you. So again, where did you demonstrate that? So when it's 2 pounds, it's 4 times the energy, he says. So twice the compression is 4 times the energy. That's his assertion. Well, you're saying that you're supposed to be dropping something that has 4 times the energy, so it should move the scale to 2. The thing with twice as much energy should show us twice as much on the scale.
I knew that the one mass dropped from one height and the half mass dropped from, or 2 velocity, would read only a little bit more. If the one mass from one height,
so he keeps saying it a little bit more.
The half mass from 4 height.
So he means what? What's a little bit? 0.4, 0.7? How much energy are you saying the scale isn't noticing from the 2 that it should read? So it's got twice the energy. So you're saying scales don't measure either momentum or kinetic energy. They don't measure either one. That's what you're saying. What do they measure then? Wait! Whatever that is.
Lights wouldn't read 2 like you're saying because it's 2 twice the energy. No, it doesn't. That's the point. It would read just a little bit more because the spring extension.
This is really unacceptable, right? It'll just read a little bit more. What is that? Then you won't do the experiment to prove it's a little bit more. And exactly what I predicted, of course. It's a little bit more because you haven't accounted for the fact that the heavy mass is 10 pounds and the lighter mass is only 5 pounds. And the added gravitational weight is different between the two objects. 10 pounds does in fact move the scale twice as much as 5 pounds.
The energy the energy is a square of the spring extension. So if it read 2, it would be 4 times the energy, not half. So double the energy would only be 1.4. So I wanted to catch you and show you.
Well, do it then. Do it. Do the experiment, prove your point, and I'll see if it's exactly what I claimed would have happened.
That the mass times velocity would predict that both drops would weigh 1. But
if you turn the experiment sideways and do it, that's exactly what will happen. You won't have to subtract the gravitational mass, and you'll get exactly the same reading. So just have 2 things move. Have something move twice as fast that's half as light, crash them into a spring, and see what you get. Now, Brozo did the experiment and came up with a perfect shit answer. Okay. My prediction was 12. He got 14. His prediction was 16. And he declared victory. That's the credibility of your physics. That's what you think is a good experiment. You've debunked me, okay, with that nonsense. Because I'm sure you didn't comment and say on Brozo's video, 14 isn't 16. You didn't get the right answer, asshole. You didn't say anything like that.
With kinetic energy, it would have twice the energy, but it would not show 2. I didn't want to get into that argument. I don't know what it will show. The physicists will tell you.
Okay. Well, isn't that a cop out? I mean, just a cop out. A physicist will tell you. You can't reference a link. You can't show us anything. Nothing at all. So you're defending 350 years of physics, and you can't show us anything at all. You can't show us it taking 4 times the fuel to go twice as fast. You can't show a repeat of the editing experiment. You can't show a goddamn thing. And yet you're so fucking arrogant. Amazing.
And when we show that, that's telling you that there's something wrong with your MV. I just wanted to show the difference. But now you are confusing it by saying, well, it should show twice if it kinetic energy twice the energy. Don't you know how a spring works?
No, it's not. I didn't say it showed twice. I said simply you have to just remove the fact that the 10 mass is still a 10 mass, and it compresses the spring because it's a 10 mass in the stream of gravity still. So it's added to the spring compression. The weight of the object is part of the spring's compression. So you have to subtract that weight to get the full mass and velocity impact. You want to just know the MA part. You don't want the GM part. Duh. I've already made the argument like 6 times now, right? And the reason why I keep repeating it is because they never respond to it. They never counter the argument, ever.
Because the spring doesn't work like that. I've drawn a picture about it. Drawn a picture.
A ludicrous,
you can understand it. You can understand.
A ludicrous picture, right? He's saying it. I can lift an object onto the scale and it weighs 5 pounds. And then when I lift the second 5 pounds up to the scale, I've made the scale have 4 times the energy. Somehow the second time I lifted it up, I got 3 units of energy. I only had 1 unit. When I took 1 unit, put it on, that's just 1 unit. And when I put the second one on, all of a sudden I have 4. That's his theory. Obviously, too silly for words.
And why the spring extension is not linear when in regards to energy. So I'm not falling for your crap. You're chickening out of it. You're getting out of it because it would show more. Every time would show a bit more. The fact that it shows a difference proves that there's something wrong with your...
All right, so again, there's no talking to this lunatic. Right? There's just no... You can't reason with him. You can't do logic. You can't understand. He doesn't understand that they're 2 different experiments. Pushing something sideways is a different experiment than dropping things in gravity. That one has a wind, so to speak, the gravitational wind. No gravitational wind in the other experiment. He can't understand that simple principle, and instead will do this shit. I mean, it's just... this is such an insult to intelligence to even have to respond to crap this crappy. This is such a crap, cowardly pile of shit video.
Mass times velocity. So I'm glad I didn't do it because I'm right. You will find a way to get out of it.
Right. I'll find a way to be logical and reasonable and as accountable as I can be to all the real variables that exist in the real universe. So I'll do real science. You'll do fake science. And that's the clear distinction you're making. You're showing that you're a faker and a phony and a fraud because you don't give a shit about the absolute truth that exists. The facts are there. Everything I said about gravity changing the experiment is absolutely true.
You will find a way to avoid having to be humiliated. And now you're starting to argue, well, perhaps mass times velocity is not completely right.
Separate subject. So again, he keeps wanting to drift back to the, well, it does hit the wall and there's twice the momentum in the wall. That's what physics says. And because I'm saying, okay, let's go with that. What can we do with that mechanism? Is there some way I can point out to you how that can't be the whole truth? That there has to be there has to be some other explanation. So if you're going to claim something has more momentum, you have to explain it in the context of, electrons and protons and atoms maybe. Maybe you have to go to the nuclear level to find out what's really going on.
But it's more right than KE. You're covering your bases. No, too late for that.
I didn't say more right. I'm saying it's absolutely correct that the squared term is nonsense. what I said was momentum may be an incomplete theory, that there might be something more to the story. That's all I said. And that is a negative step in your opinion. I've gone in some negative direction because I'm attempting to concede, well, okay, you know, this bar did an experiment with the crappiest cars you could imagine. They don't roll worth a shit. He does have timing gates. Yes, there's lots of reasons to think he fucked up somehow. But let's just take that out of it and just say he did do it correctly. Well, it's showing up in the crudest, dirtiest thinking experiment you could do. You couldn't find a more frictionless. I mean, if you made the cars deliberately more frictionless, I mean, friction full, you almost couldn't make cars that rolled more poorly. You know, and you know, so I'm giving you a concession. I'm saying, okay, yeah, it works internally. I made the point. It works internally. That's what I said. But it doesn't work externally.
Only a complete and utter apology is ever going to suffice.
Okay, well, like I said, I'm not ever going to watch your video. There's no excuse for this. No, just none. I should apologize for directly responding to your challenge. I directly responded to it. I explained it as much as I could in the time we're allowed. I pointed out all the reasoning and the logic of why I'm saying what I said, and there's not a single detail about any of that you are claiming is incorrect. You're just slandering it. You're not going to be able to explain how anything I said was incorrect. You're not going to be able to explain how horizontal experiment is the same as the vertical experiment. That in gravity is the same as without gravity. You're not going to be able to explain how that's incorrect.
For what you've called everybody. And the great people in the past that you've insulted.
You're insulting them. You slandered the fuck out of Newton. Newton, Descartes, and Galileo were smart people, and you're insulting their intelligence. Galileo told you about all this shit, the 1:3:5 ratio. He explained all this shit, and you're ignoring all of it to believe in your Jesus.
From here. Show us a lever. How many fucking times have I shown you that fucking lever?
Okay.
Accelerating.
I said draw me a lever. Explain how it doesn't conserve momentum. Please. And yes, I'd love for you to show me it not conserving momentum. So please show me it not conserving momentum. Show me how the lever doesn't conserve momentum. Show me that experiment.
The same speed. Everybody's shown you things. You're just ignoring it all. Ignoring it all and finding faults with it all where it doesn't need to be. The faults are minor compared to the result.
So let's just put this in the context that, yes, although the Mythbusters video was semi-imperfect, they will concede none of it. They take cars and crash them 100 miles an hour into a brick wall, and that's not good enough. They do the clay thing. That's not good enough. So, yeah, fuck you, you hypocrite.
Excuses, excuses. You can't deal with somebody like you. Why should I waste my time? Why should I
show
something? Prove me this, prove me that. You say, why should I prove you anything, show you anything? Not obliged to do anything for you. You're the ones with outrageous claim.
You haven't done anything. So you just challenged everybody to make a prediction, and then you backed out. Cowardly. You just cowardly said, I'm not going to do the experiment because, frankly, I'll prove Gary right. And that's why you're not doing it. Because it'll prove me right.
You bloody well prove it. I don't like getting angry with it, but you are such a fucking tosspot.
And you're an evil troll, lying sack of shit. Okay. Nothing else need be said. So let's see what Pirio says. So, yeah, I read this before. There's nothing here. I mean, let me update this and see if there's any hope of finding a reasonable comment. Pointing out, wow, what a cop-out, Ian. You're a real douche. And while I'm at it, an Emendum song. Okay, so that's just where he's linking to his shitty music video. Alright. So Merker said, he also stated friction of a ball rolling on a surface is linear in one video. No, I didn't. I mean, only as some sort of catastrophic verbal error. And what video is it? You're talking about 10 years ago? I might have said that 10 years ago, frankly. It wasn't until this subject came up that I thought about it and figured out, oh shit, friction isn't linear. I mean, and you can understand it for very good reasons. So again, what's your point? I mean, for the last year, I certainly haven't been saying it's linear. Well, the last 6 months, let's say. And I've said it over and over and over. I've done the explanation. I just did it again in this video, the rolling thing. Again, I did it. And not one of you cowards will play that clip and explain how anything I said in it is incorrect. That the thing does reach half its velocity 3/4 down the track. That's how things slow down. They reach, when you're rolling in friction, everything you roll, it will actually not go half the speed until it's 3/4 of the way down the track. Everything. Alright. Then the next video he says it's not linear. So there hasn't been any inconsistency in the last few months anyway. So I don't know what he's... Obviously no reference from this liar I'm going to sue. He's really hard to follow. So again, has there been any doubt? So I've drawn it literally now many dozens of times. The rolling ball 4 times the distance. It came up with the Franklin Who videos. I drew it over and over and over and over again. And there hasn't been a single rational counter argument to anything said in those videos. Don't forget, he doesn't really know what it means for it to be linear or not. Linear is the same per foot. That would be linear. Per second would be linear. Anything that happens at a rate that doesn't change is linear. The argument is clearly when you're going faster, you incur less friction. When you go faster across the scale, it's not linear. Jesus. What pieces of shit these people are. Okay, the Merker guy. Let's see. As far as I can see, there is... As far as I can see, there's rotational friction. There really isn't. There's just friction with the contact points. Rotation is the wheel's problem. It's not the ground's problem. The ball moving clockwise or counterclockwise in one direction. Static friction. Yes, that's the friction you have to overcome because something's sitting in the friction. So it always takes a little bit more energy. You can just understand static friction is you sink a little further because you've been sitting there a while. And most matter will concede to the fact that you've been sitting there a while and you're compressing it. And so it'll form to your compression. And you have to break something loose from that friction. That's static friction. The force required to start moving on a surface type. The sliding friction, when two surfaces are literally rubbing against one another like a bowling ball on a backspin. That's an example of very low friction, insanely low. When a bowling ball is backspinning, it's floating on a layer of oil, and it's basically has no friction. It'll go very, very far. The bowling ball will really travel a very long distance if you can keep it on that oil. He also deleted any of my comments rebutting him on his own video. I blocked you as an asshole. And yes, I deleted your irrational nonsense. I read it and deleted it. It's crap. He hasn't made a reasoned argument. Okay, that history is in the videos. You can see his comments. You can see me delete them. The reason he stopped doing live videos is he banned almost everyone in the chat. No, the reason I stopped doing live videos is because you people are irrational and you want me to personally tutor you. You want me to personally tutor you on every subject in physics. You take no responsibility to know anything at all. So every one of you little retards shows up and says, "Why is regular physics wrong?" And I have to explain all of the arguments I've made in these thousands of videos for each one of you individually, because you won't pay attention. You won't watch, say, 5 videos on the debatephysics.com channel. Just watch a couple of the two-slit videos, a couple of the kinetic energy videos. You'll get all the arguments, and then you're prepared to make your counter arguments. But you won't do that. You'll force me to tutor you. All right. I think he said a few times he wants to make an actual video to respond to him instead of comments. Yes, that's exactly what I want. Did he respond in any way to what I drew? Did he explain how my argument was invalid? Any of that in this video? You liar. Okay. There are his words paraphrased by me. Yeah, so where in any of these Brozo videos or this video did they actually respond to any of the arguments made? Brozo played the video without saying a damn thing. I made the accusation that he doesn't know what camera exposure is, and he didn't counter it with anything. I mean, you people really are just such scum. He seems to misunderstand scalar and vector quantities. I don't misunderstand anything. I'm telling you quite plainly, there's no such thing as a velocity that's a scalar. It's impossible in this universe for something to have a scalar velocity. It's impossible. He's misappropriating momentum as a scalar. No, I'm not. I'm saying all energy in the universe involves a discrete object moving a direct straight line. That's what the universe is made out of. Now you think it's curved and you think all this other stuff. That's your business. I'm saying every piece of real, credible, scientific evidence points otherwise. And you're just an idiot talking shit. When it is really a vector. So again, I'm not going to argue. There's no vector cancellation. There's no unenergy. So you want to keep pretending you created unenergy? Go ahead. I can't stop you. But I'm saying the concept is ridiculous. He even said energy stored in a compressed spring is momentum. Yes, it's momentum in, it's momentum out. You want to know? You want to see a spring compressed? You just ask the question: what momentum hit it? That's all you have to ask. What momentum hit it? You'll know exactly what its weight is. Weight and momentum are indistinguishable. The scale will read the momentum. The scale will read the weight. Same thing. How is it possible? So he doesn't believe. I compress the spring with a certain amount of energy. I can push the energy in quick. I can put the energy in slow. There's a certain amount of momentum stored in the spring. Potential to give something momentum. And no matter what I put in front of that spring, I'm going to get the same momentum out. That's the idea of conservation of momentum. You can't say springs conserve momentum and then say, but I can get different amounts of momentum out of the spring's compression. If you can get different amounts of momentum out of the spring's compression, then springs don't conserve momentum. That's the simple argument. So the, whatever it is, Michael's physics, he proved that momentum, springs give different amounts of momentum. I put heavy objects on the spring, I get more momentum. So that's an interesting challenge to the theory that momentum has to be conserved, because apparently it doesn't have to be by his experiment. It's a scalar. It just stores energy. It's not moving anywhere until released. So obviously the atoms inside the spring are under a stress, a tension. That's the fact, and that's where the momentum is stored, is in that tension. You're too stupid to understand that concept. Can't help you. All right, Jerry Hall. Oh, this guy's such an asshole. If the spring can store momentum, there has to be a mathematical formula to calculate it. It's its weight. He doesn't believe in the one that exists. So there's two that exist, okay? There's one that they do for kinetic energy, and then the other one is not a squared term. So let's not play a game. It's k times x without the square, and then there's kx with the square. They use both formulas, so let's not lie to each other, huh? I mean, overtly lie. I mean, I played the guy's video. He's talking about the spring paradox, and he's talking about this very fact that you can calculate two different ways and you get two different answers. All right, which is identical to the kinetic energy formula. How do you calculate the stored momentum of a spring? I just don't understand. You calculate what compressed the spring. That's how you calculate it. The spring only can, you know, if I put 10 pounds on it and the spring moves to 10 pounds, okay, I can take that and say whatever momentum you create, whatever motion, velocity, and mass you create. So you take a 5 mass and move it twice the speed, you'll get that number. It'll equal to 10. So you can duplicate the weight by just applying a velocity and a mass. I can make the scale read my weight. Okay, I can weigh myself on a scale, and then I can put the scale this way, and I can move me into the scale with an impulse energy, a velocity, and it will read exactly my weight. That velocity is a real velocity. 9.8 meters per second. Okay, of course it doesn't exist because momentum can't be stored, so this is their declaration. Okay. It certainly can be converted, and that's all. So let's just say, I'll give away the argument. I'll just say, okay, let's not talk about springs. Let's talk about levers. Do levers conserve momentum? Will you answer the question? It only exists as a movement if he was as critical as his own ideas as he is everyone else. So again, I can't be any more obvious. I draw the pictures. You all just have to redraw the picture and explain how it works some other way. Why is that so complicated for you? All right. I mean, these people are just so despicable. Well, no surprise, really. So there's no surprise that he completely weaseled out. Yeah, okay. His excuses were out in full force, so he thinks it is an excuse. So the fact that dropping things, you are in a gravitational field that's going to give the objects you're dropping an actual weight besides their motion weight, that's not a real explanation. Okay. I too noted his change of tune. So again, there was no change in tune. There was just converting the experiment into his. Okay. Obviously, the argument being made was 10-ton train versus 5-ton train. He converted it into dropping the trains. And I just pointed out, well, okay, if we're going to drop the trains, we have to account for the fact that the trains weigh something without moving. Oh, God, these people are just so dishonest. All right. Saying he knew all along and was just testing us all. Next, he will be saying he knew it all along and was just testing us all. Knew what all along? What are you talking about? So this grotesque defense of a complete evasion of the subject. His shame knows no bounds. I mean, he just weaseled out. He asked me to make a prediction. He implied that somehow I haven't already made these predictions. I do it in detail, and then he backs out. Amazing. Oh dear, indeed. Thank you for sparing some of us the time-wasted ordeal. So it's a time-wasting ordeal for him to do the experiment. That would have wasted our time of listening to his other garbage excuses. So I laid the garbage excuses all out. They've already been done. He already heard the garbage excuses. Why is he evading them? If they're garbage, why doesn't he just point out how they're garbage? You can congratulate yourself on getting him to weasel out. So amazing. Just fucking amazing. There's no point reading. There's no point in interacting with these people, right? This is just insane. But this is the human race, right? We don't have any example of any stand-up character here at all. There's not a single person showing any integrity at all. Not a single one of my opponents can show any integrity at all. It's just a perfect example about how, wow, humans really do suck on such a grand and spectacular level. They have so little integrity. Of course the world's a pile of shit. Of course everything's broken and dysfunctional. Look at the assholes making up our democracy. Okay. His own long-standing MV claim. So I didn't change any long-standing MV claim. I didn't say that if he did the 10-ton train, the 5-ton train, that this would even be an issue. Of course it wouldn't be. Just amazing. Whatever this is. Cluck, 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 cluck. So he backs out of doing what he provoked me to respond to, and I'm the chicken. I see. This is what it sounds like to him, like from him. Okay. And so he doesn't like the way you talk. Well, I'm just doing the ridicule thing. That's what you people are big on. Okay. What does he want you to do? Take a different accent? No, I just think we all should try to speak a common language, and I think the English, even somebody like Piero speaks and I speak, is a perfectly good English, and so let's go with that. I'd forget the chow part that Piero does, but otherwise, you know, English, American English words are fine with me. Anyway, I'm a Midlander, Northerner, and I love the London Essex accent. That's your business. I hate the Southern drawl. And I hate the urban nigga. There's lots of stuff I hate listening to. I hate it. It makes me want to puke. Okay, whichever it is. To us, it all sounds pretty cockney a bit. Like, that's a good thing, huh? Alright, whatever. He's just going to talk about fucking goddamn languages. Thanks, mate. Perhaps I should get a life and stop this nonsense. Yes, well, you've shown yourself to be a despicable, disgusting coward. You had the experiment. You said you were going to prove me wrong. And the fact is, if you did the experiment, you'd prove me absolutely right. And that's why you weaseled out. It's not hard to figure out at all. I know that feeling, but I also know the temptation to respond because it's quite good fun. So this is fun to them. Being slandering, libeling bastards is fun to them. So that'll be part of, that's what I'll use in court against you. Okay. Because I don't take any of this. This isn't fun. You fuck. You lying piece of shit. This isn't poking fun. You're making direct accusations against my character. You're lying about who I am and what I've done in my life. And that makes you a weasel and a disgusting human being. Okay. I mean, if we could do the dueling thing, okay, I'd love to, you know, give you what you deserve. Poking him with a stick, his own shitty stick. Yeah, right. So these are people in 2 years too cowardly to draw a lever and explain how it doesn't conserve momentum. Piero, fucking cowardly weasels. Just disgusting. Disgusting. I have to share this planet with such creatures. Vile, disgusting, like mosquito bats. Ugh. Just, ugh. How low will they go? Seems quite unlimited. Alright, so I think that's enough of a video. Just grotesque. Grotesque. Oh, he made another one where he's drawing something, right? Oh, I don't want to do that too. Yeah, we'll save that for another day. Energy stored in a spring concept. So he's going to keep arguing that somehow he's going to keep trying to say there's 4 times the energy and twice the compression. Even though I can twice compress a spring by just putting 2 units of energy on the spring. Using 2 units of energy. And they'll keep saying 2 units of energy in, 4 units out somehow. I mean, it's just too stupid. Well, it's only 2 minutes, so yeah. That'll be easy enough to counter-argue. Oh, God, what a dismal prospect this is. Again, not a single person showing up to make a single comment saying, yeah, I get it. People suck. I mean, they can't even come close to your arguments. They won't touch them. They won't point out how you're wrong. They won't do a specific analysis of any kind. They'll just slander and libel you, and that's it. That's all they have, is personal evasions and personal attacks. Nothing else. No physics. Fuck. Yeah, really. It really is bad, you know. I mean, you people really think you're going to come off in the future looking good. You really think so? You really think that an intelligent jury would say, yeah, you've really proven him wrong? You really think so? Well, we'll see. I have to wait till the idiocracy wears off a bit. You know. But anyway, till the next time, there's nothing to say. It's just, it's almost, you know, it was bad. You're saying, how could physics make these mistakes in the first place? Apparently, this is how you do it. Just a bunch of arrogant bandwagon riding yahoos. And that's all people are. They can't really do any reasoning or logic. Alright, until next time, and such and so forth and whatnot. I'll just show, you know, show this again. I mean, it's a very simple thing, right? So you're saying it's twice the momentum if I put a spring on it, and if it's sticky, it's only 1 unit of momentum. You do understand that if that's true, we should be able to exploit it. Okay. Till the next time and such.